Okay, I think we'll start, Bonnie.
Okay.
So a big welcome to everybody. My name is Liam, and I'm the CEO of Professional Counselling and Psychotherapy Seminars Ireland, PCPSI, and a big welcome to our pre-gathering for a year of Bonnie. Bonnie, a big welcome.
Good to see you, Liam.
Great to see you, and as Robert said, it's great to see you in the light. And I think just before we start, Bonnie, we'll just go through a few technicalities, few practicalities that'll make tonight and the year a bit easier. I suppose the first is around tech problems. If anybody has any issues, what we would suggest is that you'd log on using the link provided. If you have problems with the link, what we'd suggest is that you contact Mary. Mary will always be at the end of the email, and Mary's email is mary@pcpsi.ie, and Mary will sort out whatever problems you have. Usually tonight, and again for the year, how we like to do questions, Bonnie, is we do them in two ways. Some people love to come on and interact live. So if you want to do that, what you need to do is you need to press the raise hand function. And where that is on my screen, it's on the bottom right-hand side as I look at it. So if you press the raise hand function, I will be able to see your name and I will call your name out. Robert will bring you on. And all you need to do then is unmute yourself and turn on your video, and you'll be able to interact live with Bonnie. But again, some people don't like that, Bonnie, so we that, which is absolutely fine. So if you have a question and you don't want to come on live, what we suggest again is that you use the Q&A function, and we'll try to get around to as many questions as we can. We probably won't get all the questions, but tonight and for the year, we'd really encourage as much questions as possible. And then, as I said, Mary is in the background, and Mary is going to be here for the year. Thank God, Bonnie.
Yeah, exactly. Couldn't do it without you, Mary.
Absolutely. So just a big shout out to Mary. Mary, thank you for everything you do for PCPSI. It wouldn't go without you. And as well, Robert is in the background. Robert is our IT, marketing, just to name a few. And Robert really keeps the show on the road as well. So a lot of gratitude and appreciation to Robert. So tonight, Bonnie, I think what we'll do, the way I see it, the course, it's broke down into 4 main segments. So the way I put it, the first is the theoretical input. So we'll have a chat about that, who are the main players that we're going to study. The second part then is in the experiential piece. We'll talk a bit about that, what that will look like, maybe what participants, what our people will need for that particular piece. The third part then I'm really excited about, because this is something we've never done before, and I really thank you. And it's around the whole idea of the case consultations. Very exciting, and I'm really looking forward to seeing that. And the last piece then again is something that's fascinating, and I think that's something that will really enrich the course, and it's the whole idea of listening partners. So they're the 4 main segments that how the course is going to be run. So maybe to start, Bonnie, do you want to start talking about the theoretical input, what we'll be doing and what that will look like?
Yeah, I can do that. But before I do that, Liam, I just want to say that I am so grateful to you that we get to do this together, because it's just really special to have this much time. Because with the time and the repetition and a listening partner and all of that, there's a chance to really build something inside, to begin to really establish a firm base built right into our brains and our bodies about how presence works and about how this is a foundation for everything. So to have the luxury of a whole year together, again, I'm just so so grateful for that, because I think it will be something that can really last a lifetime as we build this inside, and not just for doing therapy, but in every aspect of our daily lives that can really make a difference in terms of the quality of our lives and others as well. So I'm just really grateful. So one of the pieces definitely is some developing a kind of solid understanding of relational neuroscience. Like, how do we get hurt? How do we heal? What is going on in these brains that extend not just in our skull, but all the way down through our bodies, and not just in our own bodies, but into the body, mind, brain of others? What is that, and how does it work? Because when we can understand this kind of depth of knowing what it is to be a human being, I think it gives us the capacity to be present in a very different way. It's like developing a security blanket of knowledge that we can then wrap around ourselves, so that it frees us up to be able to really be present to others in our lives. I know over time, it was 2003 when I first met Dan Siegel, and then began to study this, and then bringing others in as well, which we'll talk about in just a minute. But what I discovered was that with the repetition of it and going over it again and again, it began to deepen into just a way of being in the world. So that maybe if somebody cut me off on the freeway, instead of saying, "You stupid jerk," I had more of a sense of like, I wonder what's going on for this person. It helps us build this capacity for compassion, and for kind of welcoming all the aspects of other people, and really making more and more clear that people are generally doing the best they can do, regardless of what they're doing, given what's going on for them neurobiologically, and what is actually also unfolding in the outside world for them in the moment. Now, this doesn't mean, being happy about the way some people are in the world, but understanding that, and then beginning to really explore the roots of neuroplasticity, how our brains change over time, is a tremendously hopeful and compassionate way to live in the world when we really settle into it. So some of the main people that I just feel like I get to stand on the shoulders of so many giants, and so grateful for that. So Dan Siegel was my first exposure, and I spent about 5 years in a study group with him, and he really helped me all the way through the process of the first book, being a brainwise therapist. And then as we were there with him, others began to kind of drift in and become really important. So Stephen Porges and Polyvagal theory, and also, again, the power and foundation of presence and how important that is in our world. And then side by side with him, Ian McGilchrist, the two hemispheres of the brain, the importance, again, of presence, of being present and having our right hemisphere way of being with people. So we'll be spending a lot of time with Ian. Others that have been so influential for me are Jaak Panksepp, talking about these circuits in the midbrain that are actually the root of our social, emotional, motivational system, and how those get shaped over the course of our lives. Marco Iacoboni and mirror neurons and inner community, the social baseline theory guys, James Cohen and Lane Becks and others that have gotten involved in this, Uri Hassan about brain coupling and how our brains shape one another. And there'll be lots of others that come in, but those are some of the primary ones. And Alan Shore, I should really mention as well. Alan, a deep, early, he's so tuned into the early impacts on us when we're very small around attachment and what happens with trauma in very early times. And Lou Cozzolino, the social synapse. Those are the big three for interpersonal neurobiology, and initially are Dan and Lou and Alan. And I've had the good fortune of spending some time with all of those in one way or another. So my interest is drawing all these people together and seeing how they play with each other. How do they inform who we are if we take all of them and kind of gather them around us, and we get to kind of take in all of that and sense how it's true and real inside of us. So
okay. Brilliant.
So you ask also about the way of doing it. At the beginning, we'll do a meditative practice when we get together each time. And then after we do that, we'll spend some time talking through some of the theoretical pieces in the first maybe hour and 20 minutes or so, and have time for questions about all of that before we move into some of the more experiential parts. So we'll be putting a again, an underpinning of some knowledge there, and then seeing where we can go with it, where we can take it from there. So
super. And you very kindly, Bonnie, have given us a series of white papers. So the way we do it for the year is that when we send out the link for the monthly webinar, we send out a white paper. So everyone will get 12 white papers for the year. So firstly, thank you for that. Because
sure.
I've started reading the white papers already, and I must say they're very rich.
Thank you. Well, it's been a joy to write them. It gives me a chance to kind of pull everything of all these years of practice and study together, and then have something to offer. I would say that there'll be more than one white paper each time, but there will be one that's called a working white paper, and it will have pieces of what we've talked about, and then some extensions of that, so that with your listening partner, you will have some areas to explore together between our times. And that will make this such a much deeper, richer experience to, again, have kind of link that, between the 3 or 4 weeks that we're not together, to have these links that keep pulling you along in this way. So that's what those are for. And it's been really kind of fun to work with them and explore and write some stuff.
Okay, great. So anything else, any other suggestions around reading?
Yeah, some people get a lot out of preparation through reading, and other people find that they come to this fresh, or some of you've already done a lot of reading and that's why you're here, so it just depends. But what I guess I would say the most is do what pleases you about that. There will certainly be enough offered in the class and in the written materials that will come with the class, that there's more than enough there. If you wanted to read one thing, it would be Heart of Trauma, because that to me is much more a coming together of all of these years of working with this into one place. So if you feel like you want to pick up a book, Heart of Trauma would be probably the book.
And for people that are not familiar, that's the book.
Yeah, I love those trees that are on the front. The trees up here, but it's the roots under the ground that make it all possible,
Absolutely. So. Okay, Bonnie, great. So we'll go on the experiential piece. So I imagine we're going to do an experiential piece on every monthly webinar. So again,
yes, and I would count the the client consultations will also be very experiential, because I know we'll talk about those later, but we'll be doing something in the second half of the time together that will involve taking the material and beginning to play around with it in our own internal system. And so one of the ways we do it here when people come to the house is we have sand tray available, which again allows our deeper unworded system to choose from the images and create worlds. So once we had to go online because of the pandemic, it was feeling like we were really hamstrung, and we very fortunately, my wife and I were able to participate in some trainings around collage, soul collage work. And so we've adapted that so that it's more like sand tray. And so we will be, every other week, we'll be doing a collage. We'll take 15 minutes or so during our class time for you to put together a collage. And again, it won't be do a collage about. The whole magic of this is coming to it open with our right hemispheres as available as we can make it, and just sensing, like I have, here's my envelope that I keep near me all the time. And I have just these images that have touched me, various images that I've cut out that have touched me. Like here's a tree. I have no idea when I'll use that. I don't know when it will come up, but something about that image has touched me. And so here's some flowers. And so I've just saved them here in an envelope. And when we're doing collage, I may just do it side by side with you, which is what I often do. It seems to really help. And you just pick images and cut them out of things that really touch you. things that stir you up, things that maybe scare you, things that make you feel calm. It doesn't really make any difference what the responsive, it's having the inner responsiveness to something, and then just having a collection of those by the time we start on the 29th. And then the other piece that needs to, or two pieces that need to become available for you. One is to take something that's like manila weight paper, manila folder weight paper kind of thing, or a heavier paper, and cut out 8 inches by 5 inches that are going to use as the backing for them, 8 by 5. And then also find some things that touch you that you can use for backgrounds. So here's some of the backgrounds that I have tucked away that are all 8 by 5. So when I start to do one, if this is the one that particularly wakes me up on that day, I'll be able to glue that down, and then the other images will find their way into relationship on there. So these backgrounds can be anything. So these are just some that, as I prepare them for everybody coming here, I have the opportunity to keep some that, again, feel like they really touch me. So again, the background can be anything. So you want a handful of those over the course of the year, and a handful of the 8 by 5 heavier cards, and then just as many images as you have the opportunity to cut out. Since these are for our personal use only, it's fine to go on the web and find particular images that touch you on the web as well, just to go through. You know, if I put in flowers, I can go through those. If I put in stars, you know, or space or whatever, or animals, and you have all of these images that come up. And then if you take a Word document and do an insert text box, you can make that image any size that you want it to be. So that way you can have great variety. And it doesn't matter if the images are copyrighted, because these are not going to be for anything except your own private use. So you don't have to worry about that. So it'd be wonderful when you come on the 29th, because I believe we'll do a collage the first night, is to have all these things available. And then you need a glue stick and a scissors, basically, you know, in order to do this. And I'll just guide you through it the first time we do it, you know, in terms of like, let's just, you know, go through and find some images that wake up something inside of you right now, and that kind of thing. So it's a very rich process. We've been doing this now for years, since we've been pandemic bound pretty much, and we've loved it so much that we're incorporating it here when we do our live groups, and then sometimes even taking the cards and putting them in a sand tray and letting a sand tray arise around the cards that are being made. So it's really it can be quite a powerful thing. I'll show you just one of my cards that I keep actually fairly close by, because there's something about this card that feels so supportive to me inside. So I just keep it on my desk. And again, it just emerged in about 5 minutes one day as I was going through the folder. I just felt like I wanted to do a card. And so you'll be amazed at what arises, is what we are finding with people as we do this. So that's going to be one kind of experiential. And again, it won't be about a particular topic, but because we've been talking about these various aspects of our inner life, something will be alive in us by the time we finish talking about it. It isn't just intellectual knowledge, but it's also lived experience inside of us. And so what arises will likely be something that's been touched by what we talked about earlier in our time. So the other kind of more right hemisphere process we'll do is non-dominant hand drawing. And so again, with that, our non-dominant hand is more connected to the emotionally alive side of our brain, and all of that generally, for all but a very small percentage of people who, anyway, if it doesn't seem to work for you, try it with your other hand, because it may be the way your brain is wired. But to just be able to take either pastels or crayons or whatever, anything that's colorful, markers, and allow to emerge on the page however your body wants to move. It's not about drawing a picture. It's allowing the whole movement of your system to emerge onto the page. And again, it's quite remarkable what will show up in that kind of drawing situation. So we're going to be doing that sometimes. And sometimes I'll be inviting you to do it while I'm talking about something, because it's kind of remarkable to be listening to something with your kind of left hemisphere, and to follow your body's response to it as you're just drawing with your non-dominant hand. So it's good to have larger paper if you rather big, a little bigger than 8.5 by 11. And then just whatever kinds of drawing materials really speak to you, as long as you've got a lot of good variety of color and things like that. So we always do oil pastels and crayons here in our groups for people to be able to use and mix together and all of that. You can even use colored pens or pencils. Anyway, it's whatever draws you in that area. So you want to have those supplies available. And then we're going to do around both the collage cards and the non-dominant hand drawing, and maybe even around the consultations we do, we're going to do some storytelling, which is different than journaling. This isn't so much talking about, from this is what I'm feeling in this moment, but it's actually telling a story, a fiction story that just comes to you when you either look at your card or you're drawing, or as you're listening to the person sharing about their client. So it's be good to have a journal to follow along as well, available with you, any kind of journal that you can kind of gather these things together. So those will be the experiential pieces. Then what happens then is we're having both a left hemisphere and a right hemisphere experience around all of this, which has a much better chance of being integrated into a whole embodied sense of what this is about. And the thing that will enrich that the most is if you have a listening partner, because our hope is that fairly soon after we meet all together online, within the next 2 or 3 or 4 days, that you have the opportunity to take your collage card or your drawing or whatever it is that has been created and have an opportunity to offer this to someone else who will hear it and hold it with you and give you a place to deepen into whatever that experience was. And then you would, of course, offer that person the same space. We have found listening partnerships over the years to be one of the richest part of the program, partly because of what I just said, but also because you get to experience in your own body what it is to be held and listened to deeply, which is really what we're talking about the whole year, how to cultivate that. So there's almost nothing more valuable than getting to have that experience on a regular basis in between times that we're actually meeting. So I know that Mary has made available to everybody who signs up the possibility of going onto a private moderated Facebook group to find a listening partner. And I know it's carefully moderated so we don't get off topic about things, but it's just about finding a partner and getting to know someone and then having someone to go through this process with as we go on. So if you have signed up, I would imagine you've already got the link to get to that Facebook group. If you do sign up, you'll get that, and that would be a place to look for a listening partner. You don't have to have one to do this, but oh my goodness, it's such a much richer experience. And sometimes people, I know there are a couple of people going to do this class that are going to have a listening partner who's a colleague and a friend who's not taking the class, but they know will really listen with them and be able to participate that way. So there's a lot of different options. But we're not meant to do this work alone. This is hard work that we do as therapists, as body workers, as parents, as whatever it is we might be doing. It's hard relational work, and we deserve the support of having another person and to be with us and to care about us and to listen to us. So I really encourage you as much as I can without being coercive, that it would be just lovely to do this together with someone and see what can happen.
Okay, great, Bonnie. And Mary, what you might do, you might put the link for the Facebook group into the chat as well for anybody that has signed up and that maybe hasn't got the link already, because we'd really encourage people to sign up for Facebook group, because even if you're not a Facebook fan, it is, as you said, Bonnie. Okay, one sec. Mary's telling me something. Oh, we can't do that. Okay, yeah. Okay. So yeah,
I think that link goes out once you sign up. Then the link goes out so that only the people that are actually going to be participating in the course can.
I think that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Okay.
But if you did sign up and for some reason that link has gone astray or you didn't get it, you can certainly email Mary and ask for it again if you're feeling more moved in this moment to find a listening partner.
Absolutely. Okay, Bonnie, it all sounds wonderful. And I'm just kind of conscious that we have a lot of questions coming in. So maybe we'll just move on to the last component, and that's the case consultation. So do you want to say a bit about that?
I do. And I know we call it case consultation. And I just want to say we don't see cases, we see people. So I would prefer to call them people consultations, but that sounds a little weird. So at least client consultations, that these are about unique individuals who come and see us. And I know so often in case consultation, the way it goes is that people offer suggestions about what to do with the person, and that is not what we're going to do here. Most of us know all kinds of ways that things that we could offer a person. And mostly if we need support around working with somebody, it's because something has been stirred up inside of us that's making it difficult for us, or that the situation is so overwhelming because of what the traumas that the person has experienced, that the person needs accompaniment. They need to be able to share with someone or a group of people what's going on so that they can feel held and be able to feel like they can still be there. But it's not mostly around how do we fix this person ever for us. That's not what we're going to be talking about. What would be the best techniques and that kind of thing. Much more interested in what's it like to be with this person. So rather than starting out, I'm seeing a 56-year-old Caucasian male kind of thing. What we'll ask is if you can bring that person into the room and from your very personal, unique relationship with this person, describe them for us in terms of when this person comes in, I feel warm because as they come in, they have a big smile on their face. And I notice that they sit this place on the couch and that over time, maybe they've moved closer on the couch. And so maybe there's more safety. And I find that they slump down a lot and their heaviness in their shoulders, I can feel. What we want to do is bring this person living into the room. We internalize, we're going to talk about inner community a lot over the course of this year. We internalize our clients in a deep, rich way. And when we can then offer that to somebody else, it's like that internalized sense of them. It's like we can then hold both you as the therapist and your person who you brought in from the depths of your own being and hold you and really listen to what it's like. So that's where we will start. There is a request to talk a little bit about their history because from where I come doing therapy, it's really helpful to have a sense of who those inner community people are and a sense of what's happened to this person that lets us kind of sense why some of the things now may be happening based on what happened then. So we will ask to hear a little bit about history. But then we'll explore what is it like to be with this person for you. And it may be that something that's happening with this person is also touching some implicit place inside of you. I know a lot of my clients do to this day. I've been doing this 30 years and it's still there. And I think that's really a blessing rather than some kind of wrong thing. So then we may be able, if depending again on how comfortable you feel and whether this is something you want to do, we may do some very gentle exploration of your inner world around what's arising when this person is with you so that we can hold you and we can hold them as well. And so people tend to come away from this consultation feeling like they have a community now surrounding them when they go toward this person the next time they meet, both a community inside, but also knowing that others know about this and will be holding you. Yes. So that's what we're going to do.
Sounds great, Bonnie.
Well, I love doing it because it feels so touching almost always the depths of the kind of work we do and how we have really volunteered to co-suffer with our people and how much we need to be held and have these layers of support because of the depths to which we've agreed to walk into very difficult situations with our people as they come to us in their growing vulnerability.
Okay, great. So I think we'll do a few questions. I'm sure there's plenty of questions. So anybody that would like to come on live and interact with Bonnie and ask a question about the year, you're very welcome. So I think we have two. So maybe we'll bring on Olive first. Robert, could you bring on Olive to talk with Bonnie?
Hi, Olive. I can't quite see you yet.
Yeah. Okay.
Here you are. Hi, Olive.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm excited about being here, but do you know, my computer keeps going off and on me, so I don't know what that's about. It doesn't usually do that, but maybe it's just tonight. Hopefully. Yeah, I'm really excited about, I work a lot with parts, and I just find this so interesting, Bonnie, what you were talking about there. And, you know, the art and all of that. So I'm really, looking forward to it, and I wanted to say that to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Olive. I'm very glad you'll be there and bring your
Yeah.
wisdom about parts too. You know, it's wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I did some work in psychosynthesis about 3 years in that, many, many, many years ago. So all of this kind of comes to me, and yeah, I love it.
Wonderful, wonderful. It'll be great to have you.
Thank you so much, Bonnie.
Thank you.
Okay, so Robert, there's one other, I think there's one other lady, Bonnie. I think it's Laura. Could you bring Laura on, please?
Hi. Hello, Laura.
Hi, Bonnie.
Hi.
Yeah, I want to say thanks so much for putting this together and offering this course.
Well, you're very welcome. I'm very excited and grateful.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. A question I have is more kind of around the listening partner. Yeah, so I have this kind of urge to want to invite someone in my life that I can meet in person, but who's not taking the course. So how can that be a kind of exchange where they're in their process of making collages? Maybe you could speak to like suggesting a certain way that they could do their piece outside the course. Someone who does similar work about bringing presence to people in their work. So I'm just wondering if you could maybe make a suggestion around that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm wondering how it would be to, and I think this would be okay with Liam, how it would be to share the white paper that you would be working on with that person. Well, that you, because in each of those, there are some suggestions for things to talk about, to reflect on together. And, you know, really with all of this, we're talking about what it is to be a human being, and that's common to everybody, whether they're in the class or not. So if we're talking about, say, ways we protect ourselves, talking about protectors, anybody can reflect on that. So I think the white papers are pretty accessible, starting with week 2, about the actual part, you know, work that we're doing. And if the person could read that, they're about anywhere from 4 to 6 pages long. They're not long. And that might be a focus for both of you.
Yeah, great. Okay, great. Thanks.
That might be a way to approach that. And again, you know, having the sense that this is somebody who can really listen and take you in, and that you can give that back, it would be wonderful.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Yeah.
Welcome. Thank you.
Okay, but I think we'll maybe bring on one more person live, and Robert, could we bring on Carly, please?
Oh, there I am.
Hi. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. I just wanted to, I don't have a question, but I wanted to share. I'm just so delighted that we're incorporating both soul collage and listening partnerships with our year-long group. I've done both of those things. I had a listening partner for years that I found through hand-in-hand parenting.
Yes.
And I just, for anyone who's feeling some hesitancy about it, I just want to say, for me, it was a life-changing experience to be in a space where you're held and you can cry and you can share whatever's going on with you in that space of just being listened to. It's so powerful to have that experience. And the soul collage, I didn't know we were going to be doing that in this group, but I have done collage. I actually keep mine. I actually create a book as well. I call my book of love.
Yeah.
And I put collages and poems and quotes and images in it. And it has been a very, very good friend. And so I'll be really curious to see how the work that we're doing, making collages with it, and then having the chance to share that with a listening partner. So I can feel this kind of tapestry we're weaving together, and I'm so grateful to be here and to everyone who created this online space, because we get to be together in this way that perhaps we hadn't been able to, particularly the last. So just express my joy and excitement. And
thank you, Carly. Yeah, we've adapted soul collage a bit to reflect it being a little bit more like Sandtray, but certainly we owe such a debt to Sina Frost for creating this way of approaching collage. It's really quite lovely, and I love your book of love. That just sounds like what a resource. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's pretty full now. Yeah, I mean, it's got photos and poems and cards and images. So it could be even another, it's a kind of another way to gather places of resonance, and it's another way of being held. Yeah.
Yes, it is. It absolutely is. It's wonderful. Wonderful. Well, thank you, Carly. I look forward to us beginning soon.
Yes, me too.
Okay.
Okay, Bonnie, we'll do a few Q&A.
Okay.
So will I call them out? Would that be easy for you?
Sure.
So the first is, hello, Bonnie. My native language is not English. I understand well. Also participate in other English-speaking programs. However, I am not fluent in English speaking. Does the course make sense for me then, especially the part with the listening partner?
Yeah, well, that's a really great question. I mean, I think it would be wonderful to have, if there's someone in your life that you feel you could talk with this openly and who might like to also do some of the some of the exercises along with you and all of that kind of thing, but the practices of drawing or whatever, that might be one option for doing that, and I hope you will join us, and I hope you will be able to find someone who you feel can hold you and be with you in a way that feels comfortable for language as well, because it would be wonderful to do that. And I think it can be a gift to the person who isn't directly taking the course, but is actually getting a lot of the benefit of it just by interacting with you. So.
Okay, great, Bonnie. So then from Judy, will we get a list of what to bring for collage again? I am not an arty, crafty person at all, so a little bit intimidated.
Yes, I can't remember. I certainly can put together a little piece that Mary can send out to you. Yes.
That'd be super. That'd be
Yep, I'd
super.
be glad to do that. Yeah, you don't have to be artsy craftsy, so that's good. This is much much different than trying to actually create something that you know where you're headed, which is what most arts and crafts are. This is much more listening to your inner leanings, but yes, at the same time, it'll be really helpful to have your supplies available. So Mary, I will get just a one-page thing out to you before the day is over. My day. It'll be tomorrow for you.
Super, and we'll get that out as soon as possible, because I think that'd be great. Okay, so so that's from Judy. So then from Susanna, hi Bonnie, I have a question about the listening partners. Please, have you ever had people choose to work in a small group instead of choosing a two-person pair? What do you think about that?
I think that would be fine. I think that probably more than 4 gets to be a little bit not as comfortable, because it gets to be hard for everybody to share at the same depth. But I think 2, 3, 4 can work really, really well. Yeah, absolutely. And we do that sometimes. I mean, there have certainly been quite a few times where, because of the numbers of the group, where we've had groups of 3, for example, that have worked very, very well together over the course of a year. So I think yes, I think absolutely.
Okay, Bonnie. And then from Stephanie, how often do you recommend people getting together, listening partners?
Right. Well, there's going to be a variety of different length of time between the groups. Sometimes it's 3 weeks, sometimes it's 4, sometimes it's 5. And there's one where we have a bigger gap because of me being gone. So I would say, ideally, you'll meet very soon after the class to go to be with, especially those experiential pieces that arose in the class for you. And then if it's possible to meet one more time in between, that would be wonderful. But the most important time is going to be close, fairly soon after. But yes, and then one more time would be wonderful.
Okay. Thanks.
And if you want to meet more than that, that's fine. But I think kind of at a minimum, that's what would be helpful.
Okay. Okay, and then a question from Diego. Would you say that is more about our inner work as therapists, in brackets, more presence, attunement, inner awareness, or learning new techniques and processes to use with clients? No, I'm not sure what Diego is referring to.
Yeah, the class is much more about developing the capacity inside of us to be present, and not as a technique, but as a way of being in the world, than it is about techniques and all of that kind of thing. I regularly frustrate people when they will ask me, so what would you do under this circumstance? And my answer is almost always, it depends. What's arising in the room right now? What's arising in you? And all of that kind of thing. So this isn't about developing tools and techniques, but about developing ways of being present. Now, that being said, there are certainly ways of understanding what's happening inside of people that will guide how we practice. And that's the more didactic part of it, is really beginning to get a sense of what it is to be a human being, what human beings need, again, how we get hurt, how we can change, how essential support of another person who can truly hold a space, how essential it is to have somebody who can do that with you in order to heal.
Okay, thanks, Bonnie. So there's no name on this question. If there are 3 of us that want to work together as listening partners, do you have any suggestions to make that work the best?
I don't know that I have any specific suggestions, except to make sure that when you meet, that everybody has an opportunity to be held by the other 2 in this kind of quiet listening that lets people really deepen into what's going on inside of them. So I think the only challenge might be, if you have more people, is to make sure that everyone has that opportunity to feel held and heard and all of that, and that everybody has equal access to the white papers that kind of talk about areas that you might want to explore. But I think I know from our experience, 3s can work just fine. It just takes longer. You know, you just need to create a little bit more space and more time for that.
Okay, great. So then, Jean, hi, Bonnie. Could I do a sand tray with my listening partner, as she and I are sand play therapists?
It would be totally delightful if you did that. Absolutely. And if there are others of you as well that have other means besides the one I'm suggesting with collage and wanted to do sand tray or some other piece that's expressive in that way, like clay is another area where some people might want to explore during this time, I think that would be absolutely lovely. And if you're going to do sand tray, I would say do a collage sometime and then put your collage in the sand tray and see what happens. It's really remarkable.
Great. And then Kirsten, hi, Bonnie. For those who took your online class in 2021, what will be the added content for the one-year program? Thank you so much for clarifying.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. I mean, you will hear pieces that are familiar because we're going to be talking about some of the same things, but there will be it's hard for me to separate out the content, except to say that there'll certainly be a deepening and an expansion of the things that we talked about then. There'll be less emphasis on trauma specifically, which was what the first one was about, was heart of trauma. There will be more of an emphasis on a core understanding of how we are and who we are as human beings. We'll have much more depth about inner community kinds of work than we were able to have in the first one. We'll really have more depth about everything because we have more time. There'll be a lot more experiential deepening. So the other thing I would say is that we have a number of people I know that are taking this class that are actually concurrently doing a year-long in person with me and my wife, because they have come to understand that the more times you're exposed to this, the more it becomes embodied. And I know from being in study group with Dan for 5 years, I think he would despair of us ever really getting the content, because he would go back over the same things again and again and again and again, and watch us over time absorb it and really deepen into it. So I think that's the best way that I can answer it. I know that even now, I've been doing this since 2003, and every time I hear, say, Steve Porges speak or Ian speak, I get something new. And I don't just get ideas, but I get a deeper sense in my body of what it is to live out of this. So I think that's probably the best answer I can give you for that.
Okay, thanks, Bonnie. And then from Eleanor, I have done level 1 IFS training. Can we use some of the imagery from IFS with soul collage, parts around the table, parts on a board, for example?
Well, you can do whatever you want. I mean, whatever you're drawn to in terms of these small collages, you can certainly bring in however your inner world thinks about these things. It'll be interesting when we get to the inner community part, because I very much respect Dick Schwartz's work, but in inner community, we're coming from a really different angle, and it's proven to be rich, I think, for people with IFS to take the two and again, let them play together and let them infiltrate each other. So I think when we get to weeks like 7 through 10, when we'll be with inner community, you're going to find a really interesting blending of things that comes together, coming from two different angles.
Okay, great. And then from Kara, Bonnie. Hello, Bonnie. Could you say a little about the do's and don'ts of the listening partner? Thank you, Kara.
Yeah. Well, the big do is to come to each meeting with your listening partner prepared to really open a space and hear them with whatever it is they want to share. One of the things we talk about a lot is radical inclusiveness, that every part is welcome here. So if it's an angry part of ourselves, or a very sad part, or one filled with joy, that all of those parts are equally welcome. And that's what we'll be encouraging for the listening partnership, is to invite whatever parts are there to have a place to truly be heard. So that's the big do, is to come prepared as best you can to be open to listening. And if it's a day when it's difficult to listen, to bring that part in and say, this is a day where I have so much on my mind and heart that I'm having trouble being open to you, and then to explore that, so that there's a welcome on both sides for every part. Probably the only real don't is to not come in thinking that there's going to be a lot of advice giving on either side. That's really not what this is about. It's not about saying, well, I think you should do this or do that when somebody has shared. And to notice when that comes up and you feel like you really want to do that, like you want to come in with something more from the left hemisphere that feels like it could fix or help the situation, and to be able to breathe into that and let that part be there and also be held and heard and listened to. The other thing is that it's really nice to have a little bit of your time together to just be friends and talk about your daily life a little bit, like what's going on for you, but not to have that be the whole time. But it isn't something where you've got an assignment and this is what you have to do. It's more about, here's a working white paper that's got some ideas, and here's my collage, and here's me, and what is it most I would like to have heard. And yes, I want to listen to you as well. And then let's just chat and see, how's your teenager doing? Or, did your cold clear up, or whatever it might be.
Okay, thanks, Bonnie. So then from Emily, aside from a meditation practice, are there other embodiment practices you recommend as being particularly supportive during this year with you?
Well, each of the working white papers after the first one, which is, I think, called a white paper about white papers, it just talks about what will be in them. Every week after that, there will actually be some embodiment practices that relate specifically to the content. Like listening for, if we're talking about implicit memory, is like, how do you sense implicit memory in your own body? Because I know that everything that I've been able to really sense deeply in myself, when I bring it into the room then, and I'm with my people as we're working together, it becomes part of what's alive in the room because it's alive in me. And so part of the listening partnership will be delving into these things and beginning to get a sense of, say, how attachment has operated in us, and how do we know about implicit memories, and what's happening in our belly brain, and what's going on in the midbrain circuits, and all of these kinds of things, so that we embody it, and then it comes in as a living thing into our lives, into our families, into our counseling rooms, and all of that.
Okay, great. Okay, Bonnie, we still have lots of questions, but I think we'll unfortunately need to start winding up. But what I would say, if your question wasn't answered, please send it into, again, Mary, and Mary's email address is mary@pcpsi.ie, and we'll do our best to answer the question. So a big thanks for tonight, Bonnie.
Oh, my pleasure. And so lovely to hear from you and see some of you and all of that. And just to know we're going to be together for a year and get to explore all of this. And there'll be lots of times to ask, lots of time in our first 3-hour meeting also to ask more questions, just to make sure that we're kind of all on the same page as we move forward as well.
Absolutely. And I know there was a lot of questions in the chat about listening partners. And I know some people are a bit opposed or don't like to go on Facebook. Now, unfortunately, our hands are tied a bit here in Ireland with GDPR. We're not allowed to kind of give out people's email address. So we really can't set people up as listening partners. If we could, we certainly would. So unfortunately, if people don't want to go on Facebook, then it's going to be challenging if they don't know somebody doing the group. But again, I think what you said, Bonnie, about getting a listening partner in their life. Somebody that's supportive might be another way around that. But hopefully it'll work out. But we really would encourage people to get a listening partner, because it'd be really, I think it will really enrich the year.
Yes. Yes, me too.
And I think there was a lot of questions as well about white papers. And again, I think a lot of the white papers you've wrote them freshly, Bonnie.
There's one for each one is something that I've written. I've got about 4 more to go, but I'm writing something specifically for our group and specifically meant to help to embody the practice. And then there's also often like maybe a paper by Marco Iacoboni or James Cohen or somebody else, or a piece of other writing that I've done. So there's some more of that didactic kind of thing, but the ones that say working white paper, those are specifically being written to facilitate the listening partnerships.
Absolutely. And as I say, I think I've read maybe 2 or 3 of them already, and they're great. They're really very clear. So thank you. So a lot of people have signed up already. Just to say that there is some spaces left. So anybody on the call tonight or on the webinar tonight, we'd love to have you part of the year. Please join up. We start on the 29th of January.
Yes, we do.
It works out roughly 1 webinar per month, even though I think there's 1 month where we do 2 webinars in a month and we skip a month. And then as well, we have 4 integration webinars. And
yes.
we've positioned the integration webinars, I think, at the end of every 3 sessions. So we'll have 3 sessions, an integrated webinar, 3 sessions, integration, etc., etc. And we won't talk tonight now, because I think there's been enough information tonight, but we'll talk about the process of the integration webinars and how we're going to run them and how to get questions in around that. And again, we might send something out on that, Bonnie, because I think that's a really important piece as well. And that would be nice to bring the sessions together and to bring any clarity that's needed around the sessions.
Yes. And Mary, can I ask you, in the welcome letter that went out to everybody are detailed instructions about collage. Would you mind just resending that welcome letter to everybody so they have right nearby them all about collage and non-dominant hand drawing?
Oh yeah,
we'll do. So those of you who are wanting more, the non-artsy craftsy people wanting more, on the second page of that, or on the second page, there's details about what you'll need and how to go about it. And then if you have questions beyond that, you can send them to Mary, and Mary will forward them on to me, and I'll get back to you. But I think everything you need is right there on the second page of that.
Okay. And again, if anybody needs the link to book, Mary, I don't know if you have access to the link now that you could post in the chat, or again, if you want to just contact Mary will send you the link. There's no problem. Okay, Bonnie, so listen, thank you, and have a good 2 weeks until we meet again.
I'm excited to see all of you. It'll be wonderful to get to be there together. Thank you for today, Julie. And it seems like it's good to kind of ground us in these beginning steps, so we're really ready to get a good start when we begin.
Absolutely. And we'll, any confusion, we'll figure it out as we're going along, and we'll usually by the 2nd or 3rd webinar, we'll be into a flow, and it'll be very straightforward. Just one thing that I didn't mention, Mary very kindly does out an FAQ. And I'd really recommend that people would read the FAQ, because it goes into every part of the year, step by step, and how you get the link for the webinars, when you get the link for the webinars, when you get the recording, when the recordings come out. So it just really answers everything. And I know people last year, when we did a year of Polyvagal, they found the FAQ invaluable, because it just really covers everything.
Yes. So yeah, that's great. That's
if you don't read anything else, read the FAQ. Okay, Bonnie, thanks. And look,
Thank
we'll
you.
see you on the 29th and
Thank
29th.
you, Robert and Mary too. and
Yeah,
everyone.
a big thank you to Mary again, and a big thank you to Robert. And we're ready to go now. So thanks, Bonnie.
Okay,
We'll
bye
see
for now.
everybody on the 29th.
Bye-bye.
Bye.